Okay, so earlier this week I painted a spring tree demonstration based on actually this painting. And this is actually bonus content from my Tree Clinic online course. So just sharing how I paint a really loose and vibrant spring tree scene. We started out on Tuesday with a light wash, just a loose and fluid splash of color using really just three basic colors. And then from there, I continued to build up and add detail to that first layer to create my forest scene. And I have had a few students who've painted along with me and had questions about where to go from here. And really, because the second layer is your time when you're building out the shapes, you've taken this very loose and fluid wash and you've gone from there to starting to see and suggest shapes, building up the color and creating some light and dark values. So all of those things are working together to give your scene, actual structure. But then from there, how do you know when you're done? I just dropped my paintbrush. And how do you take this one step further? And really, I don't feel like mine needs a lot. There are some really nice contrasts here. We are seeing these little darks against this lighter body of the tree that is creating some contrast and building the painting into something that is has some appeal to it. When we have just everything's loose and soft, we don't see we don't get to see those details, and we don't see the impact of the piece. So we really need to have some structure happening. Just need to tweak a setting here. Okay, so from here, we do want to take it one step further. And a lot of students, when they're asking about how to add detail to a scene to take it to that finished stage, they're looking at the objects in the scene as their guide for adding detail. And that's great to an extent. But really what finishing a painting is about, what the final details should be really more concentrated on, is this idea of contrast and value. And so really what will make my painting look finished and complete is having some value contrasts that just give that painting that little polished effect. So let's work with what's happening on the paper here. And I'm not going to reinvent everything. I'm going to work with the same original color scheme. And I don't want to change really the structure of my painting. I don't want to just start moving trees and adding something new. I want to just work with what's already here. And so what I want to do, let's see, paper towel, a little more paint on my brush than I needed. So what I want to do is just work on some of these contrast areas. And really what I think works well in this painting already are those beautiful violet shadows that make the warm parts of the painting really glow. So I'm going to strengthen some of those shadow shapes with a little cobalt violet on my brush right now. And right up alongside the tree trunk, for example, and inside of these branches, I can create some contrast areas that start to really make the light tree trunk stand out. And right here where I've painted along the edge of the tree trunk, I can soften that dark value. And it's not, I'm saying dark value, these are going to be some of my darkest colors, but they're not really very dark. My painting is quite light and fresh in color, so I don't need to look for black or near black colors in order to create a sense of contrast between light and dark in the painting. And building right around the tree leaves as they come down toward the forest will pull the warm values close out towards the viewer. Generally, warm values appear to be closer to you than cool values. So as I paint these cooler shadows in the background, the warmer tree leaves are going to pop forward. And right now I'm thinking about painting some shadows kind of showing through the trees. And I think the trick here right now is not to get too fussy with detail as well. Keep it simple, because it's really easy to fall into starting to create all these tiny little holes here and little spaces, gaps between the branches here and there. And the next thing you know, you're kind of committed to this large quantity of detail that's going to take a long time to create when we really didn't need to go that deep into it. I want to emphasize the shapes of the trees, bring them out of the forest towards the viewer. This tree trunk right here could come forward a bit more, so let's try. I almost hesitate to fuss at all with this edge because it's got this beautiful color transition in here. There's a little bit of pink, green, yellow, violet, all in this area. If I cover that up with dark color, we won't see that beauty. So I'm going to try making the tree trunk come forward by darkening this side of the tree. And just deepening the color there. And I'm layering over areas that I had already painted with this same cobalt violet mixture. And so I'm not changing anything that way either. I'm just kind of making that color a little richer as I add a new layer of the same color. And I think that brings the tree forward a little bit. I still think I might need to just do a little bit of tree trunk defining over on this side. Just like that, even just one little partial line there brings the tree forward. Now you might feel like you want to move right across the painting with every tree trunk that's showing here. It's unnecessary. I kind of want this area to be my focal point more than this area. So that means I'm going to just simplify. This is going to kind of softly fade away. And when you think about how much detail to add, consider that when we're studying a scene with our human eyes and our human brains, we tend to only be able to see one thing at a time. So really we can take in the scene as a whole, but what stands out to us, if you quizzed me on, if I was standing in the forest and you quizzed me on what I'd seen, I wouldn't be able to tell you every detail the way a photograph can. Our minds can only take in so much. And so everything else kind of goes to the peripheral and falls into our peripheral vision. And so if you consider it that way, that means we don't have to paint every detail in the scene. Focus on the focal point and let the rest kind of fade away softly, just the way it would if you were experiencing it in life. I really do like just adding a few of those little cobalt violet shadows peeking through the trees, through the leaves of the trees. So I'm just placing a couple more. And it's helpful to me every now and then to just kind of glance up. I've got my camera on, and so I'm glancing up at the computer screen where it shows what I'm painting. And sometimes just seeing it on the screen helps me to analyze a little bit better what's going on and what I need to change or adapt. And now I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt teal. I'm kind of putting a little bit of shadow in the leaf shapes as well. And I am using quite a small brush. This is a Princeton Neptune number 4. I believe it's a script brush. Yes, very very much like a rigger brush, but they call it a script brush, and it gives a nice fine point, long bristles, and it gives me just a little bit of control over those small areas that I'm painting in this stage of the painting. And remember again that every time you are adding paint to your painting, you are subtracting light. You're layering over color that will make your color often more dull. And of course, if you're putting paint on a place where there's just white paper showing, you're subtracting white from the paper as well. So you don't want to overdo your details or you'll lose that freshness. So I really want to start thinking about pulling back and calling the painting finished. I really don't want to do much more. I keep looking at the screen and I didn't feel like this really needed a lot before I started. I'm going to add a little bit of a shape up here just to continue to give my tree leaves a bit of structure. By leaving a few things loose and soft without a ton of detail, I'm leaving things kind of open-ended, open to interpretation. It gives the viewer a chance to engage with the painting, see a little bit of what they want to see. And I think it makes the painting more interesting than when you've spelled everything out as well. I'm not going darker with my shadows where they touch the grass and foliage down here. I had considered it, but really what I'm feeling like is that we have this shadow area where you're in the trees and the sun's not coming through as brightly. And then here in the foreground, it feels like you're stepping out into the meadow where the sun is hitting the tops of the flowers and the leaves and creating a glow. So I don't want to muddy that and make it look dull by trying to paint shadow right up against that brilliant light area. I like the softer transition that's happening here. Now there are things I could do to add to the painting to make it feel more, I don't know, have a little more personal expression in it. If I wanted to, I could take some spatter and maybe do some spatter to create texture on my leaves. Again, it really is what makes the painting work for you. I'm feeling like I like the spatter here. To echo it up here might feel a little bit too repetitive, too close to get to the action down here. So I don't feel like it's necessary. I could work with pulling out some detail on my tree branches. If I wanted to, I could paint more tree branches to just give the trees more presence in the painting. But again, I'm liking what the painting is saying at this stage, and so I don't feel like it needs a lot of changes. As you work on the detail stage of your painting, that's really what you need to be asking, is what does the painting need? It becomes much less about the reference photo and much more about just seeing the painting for its own merits, engaging with it to kind of understand what you want to see happen, and how you can make that work within the context of the painting. And it's really fun to be able to set the reference photo aside and follow through the painting with your own interpretation. That really focuses on making the painting work. So I hope that's been a little bit helpful for you. If you're working on finishing a painting or you want it to look more finished, look first to finding those light and dark contrasts that bring your focal point out toward the viewer. Give your scene a little bit more structure and presence, and that's a really great place to work from, and a simple question you can ask yourself as you continue your painting. If you found this tutorial useful, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm Angel Fehr on YouTube, and check out my online classes at learn.angelafehr.com. I have an entire course called Tree Clinic, where we really focus on painting trees with an emphasis on finding your own personal style. And the spring tree demo that I showed at the beginning of this lesson is also a part of the bonus content of that course. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.